The god of the ocean is a waifu? Setsu must set out to save the demon lord and her kingdom. What is going to happen? Tune in and find out.
セツとはいつもこんな感じだった。無茶して冒険して。私は5年前まで陸の上で起きていることに興味がなかったし、海の底で一人ただただ何もない時間を過ごしていた。でもセツと出会ってから、一緒にいるようになってから、この世界の美しさに気がついた。
Hello and welcome back to another video on the VikingGnomeAnime channel. Today we are reviewing the third episode of Summoned to Another World for a second time. You know, this show, it is doing fairly well so far. The story, the plot, the pacing, everything is very decent, I have to say. Very, very decent. To quickly summarize the plot here, for those who do not know. We continue on from the second episode. We get to the Demon Continent, with Levaya carrying them over, Levaya being the god of the ocean. Apparently, the god of the ocean turns into a waifu, because of course she does. And of course, the god of the ocean, Levaya, is in love with Setsu, because of course she is. I mean, no one should be surprised by any of these developments. You know, she's a decent waifu. Like, so far. It's fairly likable, I have to say. And the rest of the episode after Levaya basically wins a fight with the Kraken at the beginning of the episode, Setsu makes some onion rings, and he spends time in the fishing village with Levaya and the girl that we met last episode. And at the end of the episode, the personal guard for the Demon Lord basically comes there, finds Setsu and Levaya, and pleads for their help to save the Demon Lord, who is of course a waifu as well, by the way, because she is apparently willing to make herself a slave by marrying this wealthy merchant guy to help stop the war, because she in the past promised Setsu to keep the peace in his prior reincarnation there. And the episode ends with them arriving at the Demon Lord Castle to stop this wedding and suss out what's actually happening with the war and such. Now, a lot of scenes in this episode were fairly entertaining. I did think the simple scene where the demon villagers in this fishing village are all like starving and finally gathering up the strength and resolve and courage to face off with the Kraken that Levaya killed at the beginning of the episode. And Setsu just rolls in and it's like, hey, I got this massive squid here I'm gonna make some food out of. You wanna get some? And they're like, what the? You killed the Kraken? Yeah, well, you know, now it's food. So, you know how it is, right? That was a fairly entertaining scene. I did like that. I did also like how they are generally making Levaya, you know, they're fleshing her out, and they made her a fairly likable character. She clearly has feelings for Setsu, and the whole waifu arc there. So the harem, I suppose, is going to start as of next episode. But I do quite like how they are actually spending time on trying to develop each and every character. It does seem like every episode they are focusing on one specific character and trying to flesh them out, build them out, and make them likable and make you care about them. In the last episode, it was the little girl, right? Where they spent basically the entire episode just telling you about her, some of her backstory, and such. In this episode, it's Levaya, and you get the same sort of build up as it did in the last episode with the girl, where you get some backstory on Levaya, some backstory on Setsu and Levaya and how they met each other in the past, and some of her motivations, and of course her love and such for Setsu, but you basically get a somewhat built out character for Levaya in the episode. I assume that the next episode, they will continue on this trend by having the Demon Lord, Deza, or whatever her name was, be the same way, where she will be the main focus, and the rest of the cast will take a back seat, outside of Setsu of course. And they will focus on building one character each episode without branching out too much. I mean, that as a concept, it's a very decent concept, and it's a very decent plan to have. If you only focus on one main character per episode, you're not going to become overwhelmed. You're not going to go too outside the reservation by just slapdishing things together and having unlikable or completely NPC characters. So by doing that, as they are so far, that can be a very decent blueprint. and it can end with a pretty good result. So I don't hate that at all. I'm fairly happy with how they are doing it so far. The pacing, as I said, it's fairly slow, as I said in the last episode. Again, in this episode, we don't get any big fights. We get a very small fight scene at the end, but nothing else, really. It seems that they really want to have the pacing at the start be slow and methodical, and just slowly build out character, and the plot starts to then unravel and build, as it seems now. We saw at the end of this episode that the plot is thickening, right? We're getting a lot of mentions of what could be going on here, and we get to sort of build out the world as Setsu goes back out and exploring it, as it did the last time he was there. So that is a bit interesting, as I expected way more action, way more just jump in, power fantasy, OP main character, go in, blaze it, no cares in the world. But that is not at all what we are seeing so far. So if they continue with this sort of story focus, plot focus, character development focus throughout the season, and then we get like a few very climactic fights throughout, then this can be a very decent isekai, like a very decent one. It might be not the best in terms of story or character or animation, but it can be a very decent watch, and it can be a very overall enjoyable and watchable show for what it's supposed to be. And that's not something you can say about all isekais at all. Even this season, there are multiple isekais that are not near to this level of quality, and that says something. Not gonna mention names, of course. You'll have to go through my channel. I'm sure you can see which ones I'm not fond of so far. Depending on how they finish with the story and how they go from here, I think this is a very solid 7 out of 10 show. You know, nothing amazing, as I said, but enjoyable. A few other moments in the episode I thought were fairly nice. I did like how the guard told us about the Demon Lord, and that she is basically willing to sell herself into slavery to marry this merchant guy, because the merchant guy claims he can stop the war, even though he may be behind it, or at least partly behind the war to begin with, but that she is willing to basically sacrifice herself and her autonomy to basically become just like a plaything, I suppose, of this merchant guy, Terran, his name was, because she made a promise to Setsu before he disappeared that she would keep the peace, right? I'm sure that really tears on Setsu as well, as you can see his expression at the time. Well, not the best expression, but his expression anyway, that this must be something that bothers him, right? That she might be subject to this sort of treatment and life now because of the promise that she made to him, that he made her promise to do in the past. We'll have to see what they do with that, if anything, but I thought that was a fairly nice story beat, as it was. As I said though, I'm quite enjoying this isekai. It's like sort of piecemeal, slow, methodical, but it has quality, it has heart, you know? They're actually trying to make you like the characters and the story and actually build a world that you care about and you want to know what happens next in. There's not just some soulless power fantasy, who the fuck knows what's going on around outside the main character. I hope you did enjoy this video and this episode review. I am quite enjoying this show, and I hope you are too. Oh, rhyme. Oof, damn. If you have any thoughts on the episode or on the video or anything else, feel free to comment below. I read and respond to every single comment, because I'm just that sort of guy. Also, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, as I do greatly love all the support you choose to give me. With that though, I will see you all in the next one. Keep watching anime.